The Curse of the Weeping Lady, a haunting in the Cambodian jungle. Dr. Liam O'Connell, his pith helmet a beacon of borrowed civilization in the emerald maelstrom of the Cambodian jungle, hacked his way through the undergrowth. His machete sang a discordant melody against the primal symphony of buzzing insects and unseen birds. Sweat plastered his shirt to his back, a damp, clammy second skin. He cursed the humid air, thick enough to chew on, and the relentless mosquitoes that seemed to find an endless buffet in his flesh. Liam wasn't an entomologist or a botanist. He was an anthropologist, drawn to a far more chilling subject, the legend of the Weeping Lady of Angkor Thom. Local whispers spoke of a spectral figure, a woman cloaked in white, who haunted the ruins of a forgotten Victorian mansion swallowed by the jungle. Her mournful cries echoed through the night, a chilling lament for a life stolen. The mansion, Blackwood Manor, stood as a decaying monument to forgotten colonial arrogance. Liam, fueled by a cocktail of scientific curiosity and morbid fascination, had vowed to unravel the truth behind the legend. Pushing through the undergrowth, Liam emerged into a clearing, dominated by an unsettling silhouette against the oppressive green curtain. Blackwood Manor. Dust-caked pillars, once grand, now resembled weathered bones. Vines, fat and green, snaked their way across a skeletal facade, claiming the house back for the jungle. The air grew inexplicably colder as Liam approached, goosebumps popping on his skin. An unsettling silence hung heavy, broken only by the rhythmic chirping of unseen insects. Pushing open the creaking mahogany doors, Liam was greeted by an oppressive darkness. Dust motes danced in a sliver of sunlight that pierced through a broken stained glass window. The air hung heavy with the smell of damp earth and decay. His flashlight beam flickered across the remnants of a once lavish life: chipped porcelain dolls, a grand piano with yellowed keys forever silent, a faded portrait of a beautiful woman with haunted eyes. A name, barely legible on the ornate frame, whispered a forgotten truth: Amelia Blackwood. Liam felt an inexplicable pang of sadness, a fleeting connection to the lost soul who once called this place home. A sudden gust of wind slammed a shutter shut, plunging the room into darkness. Liam fumbled for a spare battery, his heart hammering a frantic tattoo against his ribs. As the light flickered back on, a scream caught in his throat. The portrait. Amelia's eyes, once filled with a melancholic longing, were now fixed on him, burning with an unholy rage. A voice, cold and laced with malice, slithered into his ear: "They took everything, you'll pay." The temperature plummeted. Liam whirled around, his flashlight beam searching the vast emptiness. The room, empty. Yet, an undeniable presence pressed down upon him, a dark current that sent shivers down his spine. Panic gnawed at his once bravado. Footsteps. Soft, echoing footsteps on the floorboards above. A cold dread settled into his gut. He climbed the creaking staircase, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. He found himself in a nursery. A rocking horse stood frozen mid-rock. A music box lay open on the floor. The melody, a haunting lullaby, began to play on its own. The air shimmered, and a translucent figure materialized. A woman in white, her face contorted with a mask of fury. Her eyes, the color of faded sapphires, held a chilling depth. Liam stumbled back, his voice trembling. "Who are you?" he croaked. The woman spoke, her voice a rasping whisper: "Amelia Blackwood." Betrayed. Murdered. The lullaby rose to a crescendo, then abruptly stopped. In the sudden silence, Amelia's form solidified, her eyes fixated on Liam with an intensity that made him feel like a fly caught in a spider's web. "They took my child," Amelia rasped, her voice filled with a chilling sorrow. "Now, you take his place." Terror pulsed through Liam. Before he could react, Amelia lunged. A scream ripped from his throat, swallowed by the suffocating silence of the jungle. Days turned into weeks. The search party, funded by Liam's frantic last call before his satellite phone died, found nothing but the dilapidated mansion, its doors hanging open like a hungry maw. No trace of Liam, no hint of Amelia. The jungle had claimed them both, their secrets buried alongside countless others. Months later, a young backpacker, Sarah Jones, wandered into a bustling Cambodian market. Beads of sweat trickled down her tanned neck as she navigated the clamor of vendors and tourists. Drawn by the intricate carvings, she stopped at a stall that displayed antique trinkets. Her eye caught a glint of silver, a music box. exquisitely crafted with a delicate silver ballerina twirling atop it. A melody, hauntingly familiar, drifted from within. It was the same lullaby that had chilled Liam to the bone within Blackwood Manor. A shiver danced down Sarah's spine, a primal unease urging her to walk away. But the music held an undeniable allure, a siren song she couldn't resist. How much? She found herself asking, her voice barely a whisper. The wizened old woman behind the stall, her face etched with a map of wrinkles, cackled, a sound like dry leaves rustling in the wind. For you, little one, a special price. Her eyes, cloudy and yet strangely knowing, seemed to pierce right through Sarah. Ignoring the unease twisting in her gut, Sarah bought the music box. That night, at her budget hostel, she wound the key and listened as the lullaby filled the cramped room. The melody, bittersweet and laced with a deep sorrow, resonated within her, stirring emotions she couldn't quite place. As sleep claimed her, a vivid dream unfolded. She found herself in a grand nursery, moonlight filtering through dusty windows. A rocking horse stood frozen mid-motion, and a crib lay empty. A woman in white, her face obscured by shadows, materialized beside her, a look of heart-wrenching despair etched on her features. "Help me," the woman whispered, her voice a heartbroken plea. Sarah awoke with a gasp, drenched in sweat, the lullaby echoing faintly in her ears. The dream felt unsettlingly real, clinging to her like a spiderweb. The following days were a blur of sightseeing and haggling at markets. Yet, the dream and the lullaby lingered, a persistent itch she couldn't scratch. Drawn by an invisible force, Sarah found herself on the outskirts of Siem Reap, following whispers and rumors about a forgotten mansion swallowed by the jungle. The trek was arduous, the humid air clinging to her like a shroud. But the image of the weeping woman in her dream spurred her onward. Finally, she stumbled upon a clearing, and there it stood, Blackwood Manor, even more imposing and desolate than the stories described. A cold dread washed over her, but she pressed on, the music box clutched tightly in her hand. Pushing open the creaking doors, she was met with the same oppressive silence and sense of decay Liam had encountered. As she ventured deeper, the air grew colder, and an unseen presence seemed to press down on her. Suddenly, a gust of wind slammed a shutter shut, plunging her into darkness. Panic clawed at her throat. Fumbling for her lighter, she flickered it to life, its meager flame casting dancing shadows on the decaying walls. A soft, mournful cry echoed through the vast hall, sending shivers down her spine. The cry came again, closer this time, filled with a chilling desperation. Sarah stumbled back, the lighter clattering to the floor and extinguishing, leaving her in suffocating darkness. A cold hand grasped her wrist, the touch sending a jolt of raw terror through her. "Help me," a voice whispered in her ear, the voice from her dream, laced with a desperate urgency. Sarah screamed, the sound swallowed by the heavy silence. In the faint moonlight filtering through a broken window, she saw her, Amelia, the weeping lady, her face contorted in a mask of fury and sorrow. "You took everything," Amelia rasped, her voice a chilling echo. "Now you will take her place." Sarah realized with horrifying clarity what the dream meant. Amelia wasn't seeking revenge on Liam, but a replacement, a vessel for the child she'd lost. Terror propelled Sarah into action. She wound the key, the lullaby filling the air. As the melody played, a soft glow emanated from the music box, pushing back the oppressive darkness. Amelia recoiled, a look of anguish contorting her spectral features. The lullaby, once a song of sorrow, now seemed to transform, imbued with a newfound peace. Tears welled up in Amelia's translucent eyes, a single one tracing a shimmering path down her cheek. As the last notes faded, Amelia's form shimmered and dissolved, leaving behind only a faint echo of sadness. The oppressive feeling lifted, replaced by an unsettling quiet. Sarah collapsed onto the dusty floor, gasping for breath, the music box clutched in her trembling hands. Dawn broke, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. Sarah emerged from the mansion, the rising sun casting an ethereal glow on the decaying facade. She knew she wouldn't speak of what transpired within those walls. But the memory of the weeping lady, and the chilling touch of her spectral hand, would forever be etched in her mind. But strangely exhilarated, Sarah emerged from Blackwood Manor as the first rays of dawn kissed the horizon. The oppressive feeling that had clung to her for weeks had vanished. The weight of the locket, heavy in her palm, was a stark reminder of the ordeal. Back in the city, Sarah placed the locket on a small altar she had created. She lit a candle, its flickering flame a beacon of hope. A soft breeze rustled through the room, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah thought she saw a hint of a smile grace Amelia's spectral form before it dissolved completely. The music box remained on the nightstand, a silent sentinel. The lullaby was gone, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. Yet, Sarah no longer felt fear. Instead, a quiet sense of peace settled over her. She had faced the curse of the weeping lady and emerged, not unscathed, but forever changed. The memory of Amelia, a soul finally at rest, would forever serve as a reminder of the power of compassion, even in the face of unimaginable horror. Weeks turned into months, and a fragile normalcy settled over Sarah's life. The music box remained on her nightstand, a constant, unnerving reminder. The lullaby was absent, replaced by an unsettling silence that hummed with a tension Sarah couldn't quite shake. One night, a power outage plunged her apartment into darkness. The silence suffocating. A primal fear taking root in her gut. Then, she heard it, a faint, mournful melody, barely audible, yet unmistakable. The music box. It shouldn't be playing. Panic clawed at her throat as she fumbled for a lighter. The flame sputtered to life, illuminating the music box, empty. The locket, the only thing tethering Amelia to the physical world, was gone. Dread coiled in Sarah's stomach. Amelia was free, but free for what? A cold sweat slicked her skin as a horrifying realization dawned on her. Amelia wasn't after the locket, it was Sarah herself Amelia craved. The melody grew louder, filling the room, a spectral siren song. Sarah stumbled back, knocking over a vase. The shattering sound seemed to break a spell. The music abruptly stopped, replaced by an unsettling quiet. In the absence of the melody, a new sound emerged, a soft, rhythmic rocking. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs as she traced the sound to the empty rocking horse in the corner of her room. It creaked back and forth, an unnerving mockery of a child's plaything. Suddenly, the rocking stopped. A cold gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the lighter and plunging her back into darkness. Terror choked her scream as a spectral hand clamped down on her shoulder. "You took my place," a voice rasped in her ear, a chilling echo of Amelia's sorrow twisted into a monstrous hunger. Sarah thrashed, but Amelia's grip was like iron. "No," Sarah rasped, her voice hoarse with fear. "I helped you find peace." A cold, spectral laugh echoed in the darkness. "Peace? There is no peace for a mother who loses her child." Sarah felt herself being lifted, her body weightless against Amelia's spectral touch. Tears streamed down her face, a mixture of fear and a strange, desperate empathy for the wrathful spirit. "There's another way, Amelia," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Let go of this anger. There's still love you can hold on to." Amelia's spectral form flickered, the rage in her voice tinged with a flicker of doubt. Sarah pressed on, weaving a narrative of a love that transcended the physical realm, a love that could exist even beyond the veil of death. The room remained silent, the tension stretched taut. Finally, with a heart-wrenching sob that echoed through the darkness, Amelia's spectral form began to dissipate. Sarah felt the weight on her shoulder lessen, a cold breeze swirling around her. Relief flooded her, so intense it brought her to her knees. The room remained dark, but the oppressive feeling that had gripped her was gone. Exhausted, Sarah fumbled for her phone, the weak light illuminating the empty rocking horse and the chilling absence of the locket. The following morning, Sarah moved out of her apartment. The city, once a source of comfort, now felt suffocating. She craved the open air, the vastness of the sky. Driven by a restless spirit, she found herself drawn back to Cambodia. Days turned into weeks as Sarah retraced her steps to Blackwood Manor. The once familiar path now seemed treacherous, the jungle a maze of whispering secrets. Finally, she emerged into the clearing, and there it stood, the mansion, even more dilapidated than before, a monument to a forgotten tragedy. As she approached the decaying structure, a cold dread washed over her. The air hung heavy, the silence broken only by the mournful cry of an unseen bird. A part of her knew this wasn't a good idea, but a strange compulsion urged her forward. Pushing open the creaking doors, she was greeted by the same scene of dust and decay. The rocking horse from her dream stood frozen mid-motion in the nursery, a spectral echo of the horror she'd faced. A flicker of movement caught her eye. In the crib, nestled amongst the moth-eaten blankets, lay a tarnished silver locket. It was the same one that had held Amelia tethered, the one that had vanished from her apartment. Sarah's breath hitched. A horrifying realization dawned on her. Amelia wasn't free. She was trapped, bound not to the music box, but to Blackwood Manor itself, forever reliving the loss of her child within its decaying walls. The locket grew warm in Sarah's hand. A soft, mournful melody filled the air.